So right now I'm working on a request from one of my friends who is an investor to find him a rental property that would bring a cash flow and follow a specific formula called rent multiplied by 100, which means that if, let's just say, the rent in that area is $2,000, then the maximum allowed asking price would be about $200,000. So those of you who are investors are probably familiar with that formula. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm working on gathering that data for many different investors. Sometimes they give me the list of zip codes to look at. Sometimes they just give me a different, like a certain area of North Texas where they're looking for. And they're trying to determine which of the zip codes or which areas of that specific geographical area would be the best investment target for them. So what I do in this case is this is the data for you. I'm displaying it is from our MLS and it shows rents that have been completed. We already know how much they rented for. So I pull up this data and I gather the information about the rents in the area because I know what they rented for. Then I perform the exact same search and then I find how that sold in the area. So basically my objective is to find out where is the best like breaking point, where the best balance, where the purchase price of the property would be low enough to actually create a perfect rent scenario where you can expect certain cash flow from your rent or from your rental property. So I do that by collecting data on both rentals in the area and the sold prices in the area. Once I finish gathering that data, then I aggregate the data. So in here in this little map, there's approximately 80 zip codes all in all in this area. And very often I go by a specific requirement. For example, this person is looking to invest in 3 bedrooms, 2 baths property. They don't want the property to be more than like 50 years old. So they want the year built of the property to be 1970s and more. Sometimes they can ask me for additional requirements. So for example, they only want to look at single family home. They're not interested in condos, etc., etc. So based on that specific recommendations, I gather the data for the rents, and then I aggregate the data into tables, and then I create I use specific formula to determine which zip codes seem to be the most promising. So let me demonstrate to you right now. So let's get out of this sharing. Let me share a new screen for you. So this would be an example of analysis that you've seen 1970s plus house, 3 bedroom, 2 baths in that specific area, approximately 80 zip codes being analyzed. Which zip codes appear to be most interesting from a standpoint of further analysis. Now, all of this, anytime you work with aggregate data is full of potential black swans, something that affecting the data that you may not immediately notice. So anytime you have aggregate data, it means that we'll need to look at the data in a lot more detail before we can come to a conclusion. But this is approximately what I'm finding so far. So for zip codes, I'm seeing that. So for example, this column is a zip code. This column is average price per square foot when the house was sold. So if the average price per square foot for sold houses in the area, and this is the average price per square foot for rents in the area multiplied by 100, because I'm trying to, if my price per square foot is 162, 170, 130 on the sold side, I don't want it to show 1.2, 1.1 on the rent side. I'm trying to bring them to a level. So I'm taking the rents per square foot and multiplying them by 100. So this way the rents are now comparable. And now we can see which of the postal codes seem to have the biggest delta. Delta means how much it would cost to buy a house in that area versus how much it would cost somebody to rent a house in that area. So based on my very quick analysis, again, aggregate data, it looks like the most interesting zip codes to investigate right now for me to dig further into the data would be these 8 zip codes right here. Now, so these zip codes, based on the data that I'm seeing, they show that the rents in the area are very high compared to sale prices in the area. Now, these are showing that the rents are actually higher per square foot than the purchase price. So those are the most interesting aspects for me to right now, the most interesting zip codes for me to look into. Then these additional 7 are where it seemed to be breaking even, means that the rents in the area within 0.7 to 5 cents difference between the purchase price and the rent price per square foot. So overall, if I was to start my investigation for this investor who just asked me, he doesn't have a specific not necessarily idea whether he wants to go Fort Worth side or Dallas side or north or south. He just wants to look overall at the entire picture. So for him, these zip codes would be my first start of my analysis. So how would I complete my analysis? Now that I have, let's just say, this 15 zip codes in my hand that I want to analyze further, then I could go into my MLS and just pull those zip codes and nothing else, get more data, because this data was for 90 days worth of sales. 90 days means last 3 months worth of sales and the last 6 months worth of rentals. So what I would do is then I would go with the fine tooth comb, or whatever you call it, through the data on rentals and on sales to see if there have been any black swans in the area. Black swans means, for example, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath that's suddenly rented for $10,000 when everybody is renting for $2,000. Make sense? So what I would do is I would then go through the actual data, delete everything that looked like a big deviation from the median. And then after I deleted that, adjust the numbers, see if the information still looks promising. And then if yes, then I would say, based on the rents in the area, you should be targeting this specific purchase price. So this analysis takes about a day and a half to 2 days to perform per request. I've worked with several people or several investors who are looking to purchase houses in North Texas area. So for each one of them, they come with their own set of requirements. Like some of them say, I want to purchase for no more than 300, 350. The age of the house needs to be X. It needs to have certain features. It needs to be close to the airport, or it needs to be close to a hospital or something like that. Long story short, the data can be then tailored to those specific areas. Now, there are some commercial tools that I've seen similar to AirDNA, where they kind of calculate approximate rents for you, or like how promising the rents are in the area. I'm sure that there is a ton of tools out there that serve that purpose. My only concern with them, how tailored they are to a specific requirements like age of the building, how closely they're targeting some little features. For example, can't think of anything other than age of the building, but let's just say maybe homes with on a I don't know. But long story short, so requirements for homes and data. So those large tools that I've seen, like AirDNA, et cetera. I always wondered, like, how do they actually gather data? How do we know that the data that they provide is accurate? Is there any way to actually look at the raw data? Because for me, I can always look at the raw data to see if there are any deviations or anything that I find that out of ordinary that jumps at me that could create that could sway the data, or that could put an error in the data. So because I can see my raw data, I can assure myself, or whoever I'm working with, that the data is as accurate as we could get it from the information contained in MLS. When I look at tools like AirDNA and a few others, it makes me wonder, like, whoever controls the data controls your decision making, and how well is this data organized? How well is this data scrutinized for errors? How well is this data scrubbed of potential black swan events, et cetera, et cetera? So sometimes I look at the data and I, like, there a couple of times I have seen investors come up to me and say, well, my app shows that this would be a very good zip code to buy a rental in. And I have my eyebrows raised because I'm like, really? Because I don't see why. There is no indication that this area have any specific attractiveness from a standpoint of price per square foot or anything like that. But they say had a very high score in my app. I'm like, how is the score calculated? How is the score weighted? I do not know. Are you going to bet your money on the fact that their scores or their data is very accurately calculated? How can you verify? Don't know. So in my opinion, it is good to have an app that gives you an overall, maybe a direction in which you want to go. But after you research that data in the app where you cannot get an actual raw data, then it's time to dig deeper, and before you make any decisions, download raw data, similar to the one that I have downloaded here. Hold on just 1 second. So similar to the one that I have downloaded here, we know exactly where this data is coming from. We know exactly parameters by which this data was gathered. We know exactly the locations on the map where this data is pointing us to. And we can scrutinize to make sure that we are accounting for every possible miscalculation that could affect your outcome later on. Anyhow, I think I overtalked it. If you would like to, so long story short, what I was trying to share with you, if you don't take anything out of this conversation right now, take at least one thing. Number one, or two things. Number one, investment decisions are big decisions. Even if you have a good gut feeling about what is going on in a specific area of town, I recommend still contacting a realtor whom you know, asking them if they can look into the MLS for you, gather some raw data for you so you can confirm your analysis using the data that they provided to you. And number two, if you do not have a very good gut feeling about where the rental prices are going and sale prices are going in the DFW, then I recommend you start with some generic tool. I don't know what generic tools are out there, with the advancement of artificial intelligence, generic tools are starting to pop up everywhere. So, but look at that generic tool that you cannot possibly quiz on how well the data was screened and scrubbed, and then say, how can I take this information and how can I generate additional analysis that would allow me to go with my own eyes, to verify that what they're seeing is actually confirmed and boots on the ground, so to speak, with the actual prices that I can see and check on Zillow and check if you wonder whether or not you should invest next to this property, for example, you now have the address of the property and you can look at it and you say, okay, where is it located compared to my location? How well is it done inside? How many car garage it had, etc. Because all of those could make or break. Because if you're looking for a cash flow and you need a certain amount, let's just say 200, 300, $500 per month cash flow, and you're just following some aggregated data blind, you can really not get the cash flow that you're expecting. You need to have very specific data points that you cannot say that I just trusted some kind of an aggregate number, like score numbers, like this has 7 score and this has 9 score and this has 3 score, and I'm basing my investment decisions based on this somehow calculated score. Okay, I overtalked it too much. If you are looking for, again, let me pull up that data again. Hold on just 1 second. What happened to it? So if you want to look at this again, take a look. So these are the zip codes that I will be analyzing for the investor who asked me to do the analysis. Now, if I start to analyze them and I find that the data did not confirm analysis for these 10 zip codes, I'll actually record a follow-up video and report on my findings. And after I finish fine-tuning and cleaning out the data, I might be posting another video to follow up on this video, giving an updated table on this. Okay, so my name is Elena Garrett, and I'm a realtor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. Those of you who know me probably know me well. Those of you who don't know me, nice to meet you. And hopefully Good luck to your investments. Let us live long and prosperous. Bye, guys.